Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. Welcome to the podcast for business owners and leaders who are building something meaningful and know that growth does not need to feel so complicated. Through my coaching business, I help leaders get clear on where they are, where they want to go, and what needs to happen to get there. Often it's, just the small, simple tweaks that make all the difference. And in each episode, we share honest stories, simple ideas, and lessons from people who are actually doing the real work. And today we have one of those guys, Ben Engel. But he said that's only his mom calls him that, so I'm gonna call him Ben. He is the owner of JBT Cleanout, a growing company specializing in garage cleanouts and a whole lot more. He has always knew that he wanted to own a business, but like many entrepreneurs, he had to figure it out, how to start, how to make it happen. He was inspired in part by Gary V. I can never pronounce his last name correctly, so I just stick with the Gary V. Yeah. He turned that ambition into action and has built a team focused on helping customers clear out unwanted clutter and reclaim those spaces. Along the way, Ben has learned how to manage his time, lead a team, use social media to grow his business, and handle the reality that as an owner, everything ultimately falls on you. So true, so true. With plans to launch 2 more businesses, I hope to hear more about that. He wants to buy 3 trucks, own a home. He's building toward a bold future and refusing to be distracted by people waiting for him to fail. I love that comment. I can so relate to it. Please welcome Ben Engel to the show. Ben, welcome. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Thanks for having me, John. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I started JBT Cleanout back in unofficially back in about November. And then officially we signed our LLC and did all the things back in February. Kind of starting up and kind of leading into it. We had our very first cleanouts. I think I was looking at today. It was December the 5th. So we talked about everything back in November, but we eventually wanted to find some clients, got our first client. And I always remember our first cleanouts. I won't drop any names or anything along those lines, but he's been a very, very good resource for us, giving us a lot of advice so far. He said, "Hey, come on out, clean my garage out. It's been needing to be cleaned out for a while." So we had our very first cleanout December 5th, signed everything in February. And ever since then, we've just been hitting the marketing around, hitting the networking around, social media, one-to-ones, coffee, lunches, doing all the things as it takes to start a business. And we've really enjoyed it so far. And there's been times where it's been a challenge, but those challenges have been overcome by just learning experiences. And you're learning so much when you're doing it. And I cannot, it's just the best decision I've probably ever made in my life. I know it was a very hard decision, and I've definitely thought through it, but I always knew I wanted to start something and build something my own.
Yeah, that's cool. So tell me a little more about that. What inspired you to go this way? Maybe what was your background? What were you doing before this,
Sure. Yeah. So I've always lived in Louisville. I went to Trinity for high school, and then I went to the University of Kentucky. I did all the things 4 years. Yes, sir. So I was a political science major, and I explored the law school routes. My senior year, I kind of was really thinking about it, John, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this. It's a lot of money up front, and do I want to do 4 more years of school? I don't know. So I had a long conversation with my parents and close friends and stuff along those lines. And then, I just found it wasn't for me, and maybe one day I can go back to it. Who knows? So after I graduated college, I accepted a job at Woodman Life, doing all things finances and life insurance and anything along those lines. And I still do some of it. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the challenge that comes with it and trying to, overcome many objections, many sales objections and all the things. So did that. Started August 1st there, and then like I said, like I mentioned previously, we started it up in November. Myself, along with two other partners who are also good friends of mine from high school, and we always wanted to start a business. Never knew how, never knew what, and then started November, and that's when we hit the ground.
Yeah. So what made you choose to do cleanouts?
Well, John, I don't really know. But I was, it goes back
I'll,
to, it
it's
goes
okay.
back
That's a
to,
fine answer.
um, it goes back to, and I know you mentioned Gary Vee in the introduction. It goes back to him. He interviewed a guy who basically he was an executive marketer, I think is what the guy's position was. He was interviewing a ton of people who just started
Mhm.
businesses and escaped like the corporate world and all the things. Um, and basically he told Gary Vee, he was like, I started a garage cleanout business. And Gary Vee was like, okay, that sounds pretty niche. How much do you charge for garage cleanout? And he was like $700. And he was like, how many clients do you have this month? And he was like 16. Do the math. It's pretty good. And he was like, Gary, it's a funny video, and if you ever get a chance to watch it, just
Mhm.
look up kind of what I just explained, and
Yeah.
it'll come up right away. And Gary Vee kind of freaks out, slams his laptop, this and that. And then I watched that video, and I was like, that's really cool. That's really niche, and I think that could really do well in Louisville
Hmm.
because of all the. I mean, I drive around, you look at people's garages, and they are just completely trashed,
Yeah.
and
I've got a
there's
few
always
neighbors I should introduce you to.
be great. um, no, it's just, I mean, I'm sure it's like that everywhere. Everyone always needs their garage cleaned up or reorganized or anything along those lines. So, we always like to say the forefront of our business is the garage clean out, but we do all things, estate clean out, storage unit, basement, attic, deck, whatever, we do a little bit of moving as well. So, that's kind of where it came from. And,
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the challenge and the adversity we faced, but that's what comes with it. So
Yeah. Let's talk about that. I usually ask. Now, usually, I'm interviewing people a little further down the road, but
uh,
I loved your story, and I'm like, okay, he's right in the thick of it. I mean, you're what
yeah.
9 months in, you're right in the thick of it. So,
Mhm.
what's been that biggest surprise, unexpected, like pain point that maybe you didn't really expect when you kind of were thinking about this last fall?
Yeah, right. I think it's just how much you take on as a business owner. Like you have your foot in the door. You have a say in every single little thing. Whether that
Mhm.
be your marketing, your sales approach, your finances, and you're literally putting your foot in the door in every single thing. Where previously, where I just kind of had my foot in the door in one of those things. So you've got say in everything, and the biggest thing I've learned, John, is time management. What are they? I forget what the saying is, but time is I can't think of the saying, but time being able to manage your time has been, I wouldn't say it's been a struggle, but I'm actively trying to delegate more tasks to the other owners, delegate more tasks to our business development manager, and figuring out and then hiring some employees on to help me out and fill those gaps to where I can go out and set those one-on-ones, introduce myself to businesses, walk into businesses, and doing stuff along those lines. So I think that's probably been the biggest challenge, is just trying to manage my time and
Yeah.
figure out where I need to be on a daily basis, what my calendar needs to be looking like, how to not overwhelm yourself with just work. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure all that out. Yes, sir.
Well, the and time management, especially in a young company, um, it's also a cash management issue, right? So it's like,
Mm,
yeah, I'd love to hire somebody to do that, but that means I got to pay somebody to do that, and it's
right.
cheaper for me to do it right
Yeah,
now, but
yeah, yeah.
but I know that's not a long term, efficiently, way to do it. So how do you and your partners kind of talk those things out? How do you figure out what to, where to spend that money and time and where
Yeah,
not?
yeah. I mean, that's obviously been the biggest thing, and some of it has just been, investing money back into the business and setting aside, 20% here, 20% here, got to save this for taxes, got to do this, like setting up investment accounts and all that. And it's been, and I think we're on a good roll there. I think we've tried to figure it out. And I think we're liking where we're at when it
Yeah.
comes to that. So it was just a conversation we had to have that, hey, we need to be, this is what this person is going to get paid. This is what we want to put towards marketing. This is what we want to put towards, business approaches and sales classes and all these things that you need to get involved in.
Right.
But it also just comes with that extra effort, John. As a business owner starting out, I fully understand that you need to be putting as many hours as you can a day. That comes with sacrificing some weekends and working on weekends. Like that is 100% understandable, and that's something that I've definitely been taking on and trying to put in as much work as possible towards this right
Yeah.
now. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Owning a business is hard work. Starting a business is even harder,
Harder. Yeah.
So you're realizing that. I want to go back to something you said before this, and I mentioned it in the intro. You want refusing to be distracted by people waiting for you to fail, and I can so relate to that. I remember I was just sharing this with somebody yesterday. Um, I started 18 months before COVID, so I was just, rocking and rolling. Business was just getting up and going. And then COVID like wiped it out
Well,
for a few months. And it was like, so I had to start over again. Fortunately, I learned a lot. And
uh-huh.
the second time went a lot faster. But I remember, after COVID and we start kind of going back out, networking again and meeting people in person. This was probably, early 2021, something like that.
Yeah.
And I met somebody I really respect in the business world. And he's like, "Oh, you're still doing this." And I said, "Well, what did you think?" He goes, "Oh, I didn't think any, I just thought you were, just
Here,
trying
yeah.
something out and figured COVID probably, killed it." Like,
Knock it all out. Yeah.
like, no, why would you say that to me?
Oh gosh.
But
Yeah.
it's like a point of pride. I'm like, yeah, so what? Yeah, you thought I was
Mhm.
going to fail, but guess what? I
Yeah.
didn't. Still here, still standing 8 years
That's
later.
right. Gotta love
Um,
it. Gotta love it.
so what inspired that comment from you? Refusing to be distracted by people waiting for you to fail.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just trying to, my point of it was I like to surround myself with like-minded individuals who are trying to find that end goal of being successful in life and just kind of just separate yourself from the pack, because I know there's a lot of people out there that, I haven't got it explicitly said to me, but, people who are trying to make you fail every single day, it all comes with jealousy. I don't really care. You gotta just kind of run with it and just not have that not care factor. So there was one thing I wanted to highlight, John, and I actually I'm getting it off the ground in the next 2 day or next 2 weeks. It's myself along with Austin Peak with
Oh, I
Peak
know, Austin.
Solutions. Austin, okay, great
Yeah.
guy. So we're starting a group, and it's going to be the Young Executives Club. It's going to be anybody who is a young executive under the age of 35. And we're going to
Okay.
surround ourselves. It's basically what the group is focused towards is surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals who are
Yeah.
trying to get towards that end goal. It's going to be held at Fontes Coffee, July 31st at 9 a.m. Um, anybody who's watching this that's under 35 is more than welcome to come.
So I can't be there, is what you're
I'm
saying.
sorry, John. Hey, we'd love to I'd love to have you come speak and put some advice in everyone's ears and definitely
Yeah.
have you come out. That'd be great. But just I've always wanted to start a group along those lines, and Austin
Mhm.
and I had came together and said, hey, let's do it together. So we're that just kind of goes back to just surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals and
Mhm.
facing that struggle together and facing what people are struggling with in their business right now, talking about it and learning from
Yeah.
it and running with it. So that's kind of an idea there. But yeah.
That's cool. And yeah, I love I do a number of those accountability type groups and mastermind groups, and I
Yeah.
think it's absolutely one of the things that especially young newer business owners need to do, surround
Mhm.
yourself with those people and find those
Absolutely.
ways of holding each other accountable and all that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
100%.
that's very cool. Um, so you mentioned lot of work, a lot of weekends, a lot of stuff like that. And I hate the phrase work-life balance. I don't think it's even realistic, especially for a business owner. I like to use the phrase work-life alignment. In other words,
Mm.
I'm I have alignment in how I'm spending my time with my values and with my priorities and that sort of thing. Um, how do you look at that topic, and what do you do to try to maintain some, I guess, some sanity and some stability in your world?
Right. Yeah, I don't know, and it goes back to Gary Vee because he always talks about, and also Dan Martell. I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah,
Dan. He's a
yeah,
good. He always talks about there's as a young entrepreneur and business owner, there's no such thing as work-life balance. He
yeah.
especially being the age I am, 24 years old. They said you can have your fun, you can do all the things, you can do what everybody else is doing, but you also if you want to get to that end goal and you want to be free, early on in your career, you got to put the effort in right now. I'm all for having fun. I had a great time the last 4 years in college. It was awesome. I've kind of scaled back on just like, doing all the things. And in my free time, I'm just kind of hanging out. I always constantly am thinking like, what can I do to grow the business right now? And how can I effectively do that? Whether that be on a Sunday, whether that be on a Wednesday at 9:30, so I'm not working, I'm learning. That's kind of the way I look at it. I'm a huge Dan Martell, Gary Vee guy, as you can tell.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly trying to learn as much as possible, especially at a young age, and then effectively using what I'm learning to implement into my business and implement into my employees and whoever else is wanting to at least just learn how to effectively grow the business for sure.
Mhm. Cool. Um, so you also mentioned have dreams of starting some other businesses. Can you give a glimpse of that, or is that all like confidential?
100%. No, there's one that I do want to keep confidential for now, just because we're very on in our early stages and we
Yeah.
haven't marketed anything. But I'm also an owner and partner of Core Clean Professionals of Kentuckiana. We do all things residential, commercial cleaning, along with it's all things cleaning. So we're going to do car, RV, eventually get into airplane and boat detailing.
Oh
But
wow,
that
that's a
is
niche.
it's a very specific niche. We're super excited about it. Myself, along with Lindsay Davis, Dana Rodriguez, and Dave Strange. They are
I know those people too.
those people
Man.
too. They're everywhere. They're top notch networkers, and they know a million people. So
Yeah.
we kind of all came together. Dave and I had a idea behind the detailing, and Daniel and Lindsay wanted to do the cleaning. So we said, hey, let's core clean. Let's be the one stop shop for all things cleaning. Super excited to get that off the ground. Or we are. It's pretty much off the ground. We're just trying to get resources and everything put in place. But super excited. Got great partners, great people to surround myself with. At the end of the day, I'm learning from them, and we're learning from each other, and we're super excited to get it off the ground.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love Dave Strange. He's a fantastic guy. And
He's one of a kind. I'm a
yeah,
huge fan of Doctor Strange, as they call
Doctor Strange. Yeah, I always tell him this, man, you got like a great name. You can do so much marketing with that name,
so
you
much.
know.
Strange HR consultant. I think
Yeah,
his HR business is.
yeah,
I love it. Yeah, he's the best. I learned a lot from him. He is a ball of knowledge for sure.
yeah. That's cool. That's cool. So so you got, you gave your age away, which is I'm like, man, that's at 24 years old, I was not thinking like this.
Uh-huh.
So kudos to you. Kudos to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
so I know you're like you have all these years and years of wisdom behind you, but you actually in a way do because you're I think you learned so much in that first year as an entrepreneur. So
Mhm.
you've gained a lot already. So looking out there, talking to that person who is just maybe thinking of starting something up. Maybe they're coming out of UK or U of L or whatever school and going, man, I don't know if I want that traditional corporate gig,
Yeah.
like my father had. Um,
Right.
what advice would you give them? What would you say to them? You know,
Well, I would
put
just
your best
say
Gary V hat on
the
here,
best charity. I
and
don't know. I don't know if that's possible, but you know, um, no, because it was funny, John. I had posted something the other day about, if you're 22 to 30 years old, you need to be taking every risk possible. Basically, talking about just get something off the ground and run with it. You never know how where it can take you, how you can scale
yeah,
it to where you're financially free. So that's kind of what I've been telling everybody. There was actually a buddy of mine from my high school that reached out to me and said, "Hey, what sort of advice do you have? I'm working a corporate job. I think he said LG&E. I can't forget what it
hey, that
was,
was one of
but
my first corporate jobs.
oh, really? Oh, funny. But no, he asked me about it, and he said, "I'm thinking about starting something up. I think it was pressure washing." And I said, dude, just get it off the ground. If you need help with the process of just getting off the ground, I'd be happy to be a resource to you. I don't want to, I don't want to be that guy that's just like, I started something. I don't want to give the advice. I'm more than happy to, give any advice. And I'm not a coach. I'm not you, so I don't want to, I'm just going to kind of give them any things I saw that I think I should,
Yeah,
they should notice and take note of. But I just tell them, like I just mentioned, get something off the ground. You never know where it will take you. Find
yeah,
something you're good at, though. That was my biggest thing. Find something you're good at. If you're somebody who is good at marketing, or you're somebody who is can perform well in a social or a service-based business, or you're somebody who want to be electric, anything, John.
yeah,
Anything that you think you're good at. If you have a sports background, do something in sports. Just do something, get it out on Instagram, Facebook, and tell people about it. Say, hey, I'm really struggling on finding what I want to do in life. Can anybody give me some feedback and thoughts on what you think I should be doing, what you think I'm good at? Get feedback from everybody else.
yeah,
That never hurts. So hopefully that was a good answer. I always
yeah. No, that's great. I had a similar thing, you know, 9 years ago, and I've had some entrepreneurial things. Actually, my first entrepreneurial endeavor was when I was in college. My
uh,
roommate and I started a DJ business, and we
oh, that's
did.
right. Yeah,
We were a party DJ. And
love that. Yeah,
we had a blast. We didn't make a ton of money, but we had a lot of fun doing
yeah,
it.
it's fun. That's
Uh,
right.
so,
That's right.
and then of course I graduated college and went into a corporate job, and for the next 25 years, uh, you know, had all the we won't go there. It was just your typical corporate job, and I was
Yeah,
completely
exactly.
burned out and hated it. And
Yeah.
so now, I'm so about 9 years ago, I was thinking of doing something, and you know, I got kind of that same advice. Ask
Mm,
people what you're good at, and I
yes.
started asking people what I was good at, and people said, "Man, you're just great at having conversations around strategy and what we
Hmm.
ought to do and figuring out a problem and figuring out an answer to a problem and just and so I'm like, okay, how do I turn that into a business? And I didn't really know much about coaching, and as I was researching, I stumbled across coaching and went, wow, this
That's
is
awesome.
this is like right in line with what everybody tells me I'm good at. So
Yeah,
uh
exactly.
so
So
it's
how long have
funny
you had your
how
business,
it all
John?
came about.
How long have you had your business?
I just had my 8-year anniversary.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This,
Awesome.
I've always said every job I go into it with the mindset that it's going to be my last job.
Yeah,
And this one truly is. I mean, this is
really.
it. I'm going to do this
Yeah.
as long as I can do it, as long as my
Uh,
brain's functioning and people
yeah.
pay me for it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm having more fun than I've ever had, and
100%.
I get to meet so many great people
Mm-hmm.
and help people and help.
Mm.
Nothing's more fun than helping someone achieve their dreams, right?
At the end of the day, that's what we're all in the business for,
Yeah.
helping
So
people.
it's just very, very rewarding.
Mm.
So I appreciate that. And I give that similar advice, find something that you're good at. The other is good at, and I'll throw the caveat, and people will pay for,
You'll pay for
because
it.
sometimes you got things you're good at. Like, um, there was a guy I talked to a while back who was really good at, uh, collecting very expensive specialty like ink pens, like those fountain pen kind of things,
Oh, nice.
and he was trying to turn that into a business. And I started with, I wonder what's, it's been a while. I wonder if he's figured anything out. He was trying to do something, but
Hey, you never know. That's awesome.
You never know. But find something that people will pay for. And you've found something, because everybody has clutter, and cleaning the very niche cleaning thing too. That's a cool thing.
Yes,
so it's awesome. Well, Ben, it's been great having you on the show. I love your story, and hope to get to know you better. If people want to know more about you, get to know you, where's the best places to contact you and find you?
Yeah, I mean, we're all over Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, under JBT Cleanout. A lot of my Facebook and personal pages should be found under Ben or Benjamin Engel. So you can contact me there or find me there.
Great. Well, thanks again for coming on the program. I really appreciate it, and wish you the best of success in these endeavors.
Yes, sir. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.